Oh, it was this powerful.
Andrew, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Am I getting through? Alex, Andrew's my code name. But I'm from the year 2076. I got access to the globalist immortality formula, but they stole the formula for super male vitality, so we got some problems here. It's only a matter of time before they find out where our HQ is and try to mind erase us. I'm telling you, you need to destroy the secret formula for super male vitality right now. Stop selling it. The globalists get their hands on it, and you're partly to blame for the destruction of humanity.
Well, listen, I mean, if it's made-up gossip or that I have crooked toenails, I have to admit it's true. But I don't know where you're going with this, but if it's something about me, just go ahead and say it, and we'll move on. But we're talking about government and big establishment hoaxes today and things that are going on. But if we don't string your calls, if people want to bring something up, go ahead, just bring it up.
You're part of the hoax, Alex. They're using you. I have a limited window to use the time phone. They steal the super male vitality. The globalists and the trendies now have increased muscle mass due to the sheer effectiveness of the supplement, and it has to stop. Today's the day they're set to merge with machines, and this is our last-ditch effort to reach out to you. Stop selling the supplements if you care at all about the fate of the human species. We fled to the Australian outback. The government has eyes everywhere else. They might have intercepted this phone call, too.
Well, let me ask you a question. What is it, like 7 or 8 in the morning there, or 6 in the morning? What time is it in Australia?
It's 4 a.m., and I haven't gotten sleep in 3 days.
And I'm going to ask you a question. Are you either very sleepy or have you had some beer?
Destroyed the formula for super male vitality, you pathetic scum weasel. Quit insulting me. I'm not drunk. I'm trying to wake you up.
Well, listen, you're awesome. Boil down then what the hoax is, because I'm just having trouble making out what you're saying.
You are unknowingly putting out the fires of liberty, and I'm trying to prevent you from destroying everything that the grace of God has made so free and beautiful. Get that through your head. Get your head out of your ass and defeat the globalists with me. You better not hang up on me. I swear if you do, I will find you and stomp your teeth in.
No. Hold on. You're creating a paradox or to say I'm lying or to say I won't tell something, and then you're on air and you won't tell us. What is it?
Holy hell. I'd rather a time paradox than having Barack Obama cover himself in a bulletproof metal alloy outer shell after he merges with a velociraptor. You'd feel real goddamn stupid trying to come at me through the time paradox point, man. I won't even exist if you do your duty as a lover of freedom.
This is a hilarious call because you're saying I won't say what it is, but you're on air and you won't say. You're stonewalling.
I'm telling you everything I know, Alex. You just keep ignoring the truth. Hillary Clinton literally controls the force of gravity in this dimension. Everyone is hooked into the predictive hive mind, and they knew I'd be making this call around 15 minutes before I even made it. That's how serious the situation is, Alex, and you're acting like you don't even care. I've got thousands of patriots here waiting on you to take action. It's only a matter of time before the globalists arrive and take us all out. Just say that you'll incinerate the formula and destroy all your inventory. Will you destroy the formula, yes or no? You need to refuse to share this powerful chemical compound with the rest of the world.
Well, listen, I'm going to have to let you go because it's not fair to sit here and do this, okay? You got 30 seconds from Australia there with your ice-cold beer to tell me right now why you're not sharing it. No, seriously. You got 30 seconds.
We're not sharing it because Bill Gates has ascended into the sky and become a second sun in our solar system, throwing the entire universe out of order, and you're sitting there on your high horse talking about giving the enemy what they need to flatten us. Justin Bieber opened up a black hole that's set to engulf Earth in a matter of weeks. This is an emergency transmission. It's the supplements, Alex. It's not enough to just defect from the system. Super male vitality is the final key to unlocking our worst fears. The spirit of justice is gone. It's these chemicals that finally give the New World Order enough power to establish a hierarchy of evil demon spawn. They've dragged Satan out of hell itself, and various pushers of globalism were absorbed into his being. And they will try to torture you and your family for the sheer thrill of it if you don't listen to me right now.
Sure, well, what happens when enough of us defect from the system? We build a new, better system, and that's what we need is renewal in the cycle. So that's the answer is we need to be individuals, and that's what the system fears, and I totally agree with you. You got 10 seconds if there's anything else.
They are psychically connected to everyone on Earth right now.
All right, folks, get the super male vitality before we have to shut it down because it's too powerful.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Roger Stone, and I want to thank Harrison Smith of the INFOWARS crew for that extraordinary video. We are happy to report that only moments ago, my attorneys hung up with the lawyers for the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, the committee has submitted a letter to us with a long series of questions that pertain to alleged Russian collusion. Now, sadly, if the members of the staff or the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee would simply read my sworn under oath statement before the House Intelligence Committee, I have answered every single one of their questions. Yet they want to keep coming back for more. You would think they would have the good sense to say no mas, but now they want me to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee at the end of the month. I will be more than happy to attend voluntarily. No subpoena necessary. I need to question Senator Feinstein directly about her wanton, open violation of law and the fact that she released the testimony yesterday of the Fusion GPS spy, Glenn Simpson. Clearly done so that all future witnesses can coordinate and synchronize their testimony in order to avoid perjury. No person is above the law. That means Senator Feinstein. When she is going to be prosecuted, I would like to know. I'm going to assume that Jeff Sessions is sleeping, and therefore I ache for my moment in front of her committee so that I can ask her why she thinks she is above the law and why she should not be the one answering questions under oath. This just in from our conversations with the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. Owen, it's extraordinary that these people don't know when they're beat and why Senator Feinstein wants to continue to squander the taxpayers' money on a bogus investigation that has produced nothing other than evidence of their own incompetence just boggles the mind.
Well, I got to tell you, I've seen some of the strangest stories ever today. I didn't even see that last one that the crew just pulled up. Did you see this, Roger? Senator Feinstein is blaming a bad cold for handling of the Fusion GPS transcript. They still can't even get their story right because Glenn Simpson came out and said that it was he that requested Feinstein release the transcript, but now she's doubling down saying, well, I just had a bad cold. Well, what does that even mean? What do you mean you had a bad cold? So you can't think?
Well, at her advanced age, perhaps that is the issue. Really, it is long past the time for her to leave that Senate seat and let someone younger and more vital take up the challenge of representing the Golden State in the United States Senate. This thing has become an extraordinary charade, a waste of the taxpayers' money. Seeing talking heads like the hapless Adam Schiff on television arguing that this inquiry should continue despite the fact that he and his hapless colleagues have not yet produced a scintilla of evidence that shows actual Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. The entire meme grows tedious. They're empty-handed. They have nada, nothing, zero, zip, zilch, yet they continue to waste our time with this extraordinary line of inquiry. Hard to believe.
Well, and the one thing that's interesting, if they have anything at all, if they want to point to any quote-unquote Russian collusion, the only thing that they have right now is Veselnitskaya, the Russian lawyer. Oh, but they can't use that because Fusion GPS was already working with Veselnitskaya. Veselnitskaya has been working with Fusion GPS forever. So is Fusion GPS guilty of treason too? Of course not. That's not what they're going to say. So, Roger, they have nothing. And the only interesting ripple about this, not that I disagree with you, it's been a total waste of taxpayer dollars. However, if in the end this investigation leads to the indictment of those responsible for the dirty dossier, it might turn out to be a blessing in disguise.
Well, from your mouth to God's ear. The problem, of course, is that while the Democrats are in power, they know how to weaponize the judiciary, what my colleague Tyler Nixon calls lawfare, which is a use of the judicial process to essentially achieve political ends. You don't need to have real evidence. You don't need to have real proof. Last night on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow repeated yet again the defamation that MSNBC now has absolute proof of Roger Stone's trafficking with the Russians to steal the DNC emails and give them to WikiLeaks. Rachel, you can't even prove that the Russians hacked the DNC, never mind proving that I had anything else to do with it. This is why no one's watching MSNBC. This is why people think Rachel Maddow is a ridiculous cow. There's no credibility. There's no accountability. They just go on and they promulgate fake news without facts or evidence to try to prop up their waning ratings. They put the tard in libtard.
Well, why would she even make a claim like that? I mean, it's so unsubstantiated. And, I mean, you're neck deep in litigation right now. The last thing you need on your hands is another lawsuit to deal with the circus freak Rachel Maddow. But, I mean, goodness gracious, do they not understand that there is a consequence to blatantly libeling people and slandering their name?
Well, evidently not. Look, I'm not looking for another lawsuit. I've already got to defend against the phony lawsuit by Project Democracy, which claims falsely that I somehow coordinated with the Russians to steal the DNC emails and give them to WikiLeaks. It's as fake in front of the court as it is in front of the House Judiciary Committee. It is a charge without foundation. Yet that doesn't stop the talking heads at MSNBC from repeating this lie over and over again. Yes, I had no choice. I have asked my attorneys to examine Maddow's claims to see if they are actionable. The truth is that Project Democracy is beating up on Roger Stone in order to raise money. Speaking of raising money, my legal costs have now hit over $500,000. Between the House committee, the Senate committees, and this bogus lawsuit, they seek to bankrupt and silence me. You, my friends, can go to StoneDefenseFund.com to help the Stone family out of this bind. Believe me, folks, I wish I could bear these legal expenses by myself, but I am not a person of wealth, and I have no choice but to appeal to the Info Warriors. You're at the War Room with Owen Schroyer and Roger Stone, and we will be right back. Welcome back. You're at Freedom Command Central. That's right, it's the War Room with your hosts, Roger Stone and Owen Schroyer. The entire mainstream media and the cognoscenti have gone gaga over the idea that TV talk show host and liberal media icon Oprah would challenge President Donald J. Trump in 2020. A novel idea. I guess some people believe that because Trump came to politics from outside the world of career politicians, perhaps the Democrats' best chance would be to anoint a candidate who, like Trump, comes from the world of entertainment. After all, other than building one of the greatest real estate empires in the history of American business, Trump was steeped in the entertainment business. A 15-season syndicated network television show, his beauty pageants, his wrestling contests, and so on. Perhaps they think if it worked for Trump, well, maybe it'll work for Oprah. By anyone's admission, however, Florida, the Sunshine State, is a key factor in any future presidential race. And now we have, brought to us by the Central Florida Post, a shocking new poll commissioned by Dixie Strategies, one of the most respected and accurate polling firms in the state of Florida and indeed in the country. Joining me now, Brian Graham, a managing partner at Dixie Strategies, to discuss this stunning new statewide Florida poll. Brian, welcome to the War Room.
Thanks for having me, Roger.
So I'm gonna jump to you because we all know that a poll is a snapshot in time, and this is hot off the presses. This is a survey you have just conducted statewide, and there's many interesting and telling statistics here. Why don't you tell us what you found? Let's begin with the number of voters that you sampled, how they were chosen, and the stunning results.
Well, if you look at the poll, you will see that 785 voters were sampled. I can actually tell you that my business partner, John Woodard, and I were discussing the poll prior to going out into the field, and both of us thought that Oprah and Donald Trump would actually be pretty close. We were actually incorrect in our original assumptions, and when the data came back, it showed that Donald Trump leading Oprah by a 2-to-1 margin. Now, of course, there's also a large segment of people that said they would vote for a third party, and there are some folks who are undecided. Most likely, if it did come down to a Trump versus Winfrey race, assuming Winfrey would run as a Democrat, then the two parties would probably congeal a little bit more, and you would see the breakdown a little more along party lines. But what it shows me, just initially, is that people in Florida are not taking Oprah Winfrey seriously as a candidate for president.
So specifically, as I read the results, you have incumbent President Donald Trump at 47.91%. Let's call it 48%. You have Oprah Winfrey at 23.95. Let's call it 24. That's a pretty healthy thumping. But as you delve into the internal numbers, what's interesting to me is that Trump seems to hold his base, Republicans, with much greater efficiency than she seems to be able to move in on Democrats. Tell us about that.
Well, what it shows me is that Democrats, if you look at the data, it looks like Democrats are not necessarily excited in the state of Florida about an Oprah Winfrey candidacy, whereas Trump is keeping his base. Oprah has not seemed to solidify the anti-Trump segment of the population there. And the folks that would be excited about an Oprah presidency or an Oprah candidacy, I should say, does not seem to be as great as many would have you believe.
Now, what I like about your polling is you're not just looking for the headline and the head-to-head numbers, but you delve into potential arguments that can be used for or against the candidates. Most interestingly, when you asked about Oprah Winfrey's close personal relationship with Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood producer now accused of sexual harassment, what did you learn?
We learned that many voters would be less likely to vote for Oprah Winfrey if they knew that she was and had a close personal relationship with Harvey Weinstein, which she did. So the reason why we did that is because when you look at President Trump, most people know his negatives. Oprah Winfrey is a celebrity, a star, which most people really don't consider her negatives. When you start, running for office, everything bad about you comes out. And so we figured we would throw out a question that was recent and newsworthy, such as Harvey Weinstein and Oprah's close affiliation with Harvey.
Well, and as I read the numbers here, 45% of her voters are less likely to vote for her when the Weinstein question is introduced. You make an excellent point. I think it would be fair to say, based on my political experience, that Oprah is probably at her high water point at this instant. No one has introduced any negative information about her into the marketplace, and therefore it would be safe to say that this benchmark poll shows her probably at her greatest strength. Now, turning to the U.S. Senate race, you also had some startling information. It's widely thought here in Florida that Governor Rick Scott, among the least popular governors in the country, is thinking about a U.S. Senate matchup with incumbent U.S. Senator Bill Nelson, a man that many people think actually passed away many decades ago and no one's told him about it. This guy is so boring, I'd rather watch paint dry, yet the results of your poll are startling. Tell us about that matchup.
The very same people who are saying they're, for Donald Trump and somewhat for Oprah Winfrey are choosing much more narrowly. As you see, there's much less undecideds between a Rick Scott and a Bill Nelson race. And Bill Nelson actually has the edge. A lot of folks in Florida think of Bill Nelson as being a little less partisan than a lot of Democrats. And so you'll see that in the polling numbers, he actually does a little better with Democrats than Rick Scott does, or a little better with Republicans than Rick Scott does with Democrats.
All right. Well, Brian Graham from Dixie Strategies, thank you for joining us on the War Room with this incredible news-breaking poll. We're most grateful, and we invite you back down the road. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're at Freedom Command Center. Yes, it's the War Room with your hosts, Roger Stone and Owen Schroyer. Many of you are familiar with the fact that at the end of last year, I was banned in all perpetuity by Twitter. Adding insult to injury, Twitter has allowed a number of faux Roger Stone poseurs to set up feeds on Twitter and post defamation and defamatory comments. Here is one that was so vile, so obscene, we were forced to redact part of it. Let's show that, if we may. Yes, the folks at Twitter have no shame. Yesterday, we showed you an extraordinary video. We can take that down. That revealed the braggarts working at Twitter telling the cameras of Project Veritas and my good friend James O'Keefe boasting about their hatred for Donald Trump and their attempts to undermine him, not to mention their willingness with glee to censor anyone who disagrees with them. They say they are the marketplace, the town square, but it seems to me that the town square is being vilely censored. Now, my good friend Milo and I will be, as I said last year, joining in the mother of all lawsuits against Twitter. No, Twitter, I'm not going to tell you the exact cause of action or where it's going to be filed. You'll find out when you're served. My friend Milo announced this only minutes ago. Let's roll some of that.
Twitter. Now, Twitter, we have said, those in the conservative corners of the universe for years. But Twitter was enforcing arbitrary, unfair political rules on conservatives and libertarians, and in particular on Trump supporters. And we wanted to know all kinds of things, really. Twitter is notoriously tight-lipped about its policies. Thanks to James O'Keefe at Project Veritas, we now have incontrovertible evidence of many of the things that we have long suspected. In fact, some of you may remember that I broke the story in Breitbart in February 2016 that Twitter was doing something called shadow banning, which basically means they limit the extent to which your posts can be seen by other people, but they don't tell you you've done it, and they don't tell anyone else that they've done it either. So it limits the reach, your effectiveness, your ability to get your message out to your audience, but nobody knows. And the only people who could plausibly, conceivably reveal any information like that are within Twitter and aren't talking. Well, some of them are talking now. And the Project Veritas team got they got Twitter employees to say, in response to the In response to the statement, I've tried to block people like Cernovich, meaning Mike Cernovich, and mute stuff like that. They still show up all the time. This is a Project Veritas journalist pretending to be upset that they were receiving tweets from Mike Cernovich, despite the fact that they had no interest in him. To which the Twitter employee, Olinda Hassan, replied, yeah, that's something we're working on. It's something we're working on. We're trying to get the shitty people to not show up. It's a product thing we're working on. Well, I broke the story, as I say, in 2016. And what I wrote at the time was rumors that Twitter has begun shadow banning politically inconvenient users are running rampant and have been confirmed by one current Twitter employee and one media company executive. So we knew this in February 2016. Of course, after reporting that a few months later, I was myself completely banned. And our story was backed up by a senior editor at a major digital publisher. Now, Twitter's mysterious habits aren't just frustrating technical mysteries, this little black box of Twitter where they build all these algorithms to try to punish conservatives. They also have unwritten policy rules. And it's in the unwritten policy rules that the real damage is done, because Twitter won't explain what its abuse and harassment policies are really for. Because if it was honest about it, it would explain that they're actually just designed to punish conservatives and libertarians and to privilege the opinions of liberals in many cases. Yes, that's the guy in charge in question. In many cases, liberals who are far more divisive, hateful, and obnoxious than the people that they're complaining about on Twitter. And the double standards by now are well understood and well established. No reasonable person looking at the body of evidence can claim that Twitter treats conservatives and liberals equally. But we now have incontrovertible testimony from the people inside the building themselves that is precisely what has been happening.
There you have it. My good friend Milo will be joining me in a mega lawsuit against the Twitter censorship Nazis. Yes, Jack, we're coming for you. Your employees that like to talk so much, they can talk under oath, ad nauseum. This is an extraordinary act of censorship. I'm tired of seeing fake Roger Stone saying on Twitter that I beat my wife. I'm tired of your war to silence us. And joining me now and in the next segment is super lawyer Tyler Nixon for his take on exactly what's going on here. Tyler, welcome back to the War Room.
What a happy day, Roger. It's great to be with you as always.
What was your take on that Project Veritas video?
I think that James O'Keefe may emerge as the greatest journalist of his generation. That investigative reporting would put 60 Minutes to shame at their heyday. It is absolutely a huge public service, has done amazing things, in my opinion, for the advancement of free speech and the fight against corporate censorship and deceit, frankly, the way Twitter has operated this whole scam behind the scenes, behind the curtain, that has significantly damaged significant voices in our body politic in the United States. Lord Acton's famous phrase that, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely couldn't be more epitomized in the way Twitter has dealt with Milo, has dealt with you, and so many others who are not of such prominence, but yet who have suffered the same treatment, the same arbitrary, which laughably they call permanent suspension, which is effectively termination. I don't think they want to use such harsh language, but that's exactly what it is. They've essentially deleted people from the body politic, from the conversation, in the hopes that will advance their ulterior leftist, fascist big government agenda. And I think they've shot themselves in the foot, as is always the case with overreaching authoritarian leftists. They have bit off more than they can chew, and they have frankly awakened the sleeping giant.
Well, we are going to go to break, and on the other side, we'll be back with Tyler Nixon. All right. Okay. Well, Tyler, I have the highest possible regard for your legal acumen. You were one of the architects of my recent victory in a defamation case in New York City, where we actually went to a Manhattan jury completely dominated by liberal Democrats, but got an entirely fair verdict against this hapless gadfly, Warren Redlick. Looking ahead, how do you think the Twitter employees will hold up on the witness stand given the Project Veritas video?
Well, I was struck, Roger, by, you wonder, you want to give sort of, you look at these large corporations, you think, well, there must be some team of like top people behind the scenes who are carefully managing a very explicit policy, and that this is, these are professionals. It is exactly the opposite, and I couldn't be more.
Tyler, we're going to welcome back. Yes, you're at the War Room with your hosts, Roger Stone and Owen Schroyer, and we're talking with super lawyer Tyler Nixon about Twitter's war of censorship and the coming legal consequences. Before we go back to this discussion, though, I want to take the opportunity to remind you that we here at INFOWARS are completely and totally listener and viewer sponsored. We don't have any secret right-wing fat cats standing in the wings writing us big checks for the extraordinary expansion that Alex Jones has mapped out here at INFOWARS. If you're enjoying this expanded programming, The War Room, or Real News with David Knight every morning, we need your support. And by going now to the INFOWARS store, you can support the fight for freedom. My new favorite product, which arrived this morning and which I have already dosed up on, is Immune Wall. Folks there at the INFOWARS crew know that I've been fighting the flu, which seems to be out there and rampant in our community, and therefore it was a welcome relief to get my delivery of Immune Wall. Immune Wall is an extraordinary formula that includes the best of the old and new. Yes, it has cutting-edge modern nutraceuticals like zinc, but also has organic olive leaf, a traditional immunity booster going back centuries, organic mushrooms including reishi and shiitake, which have been used in Chinese medicine for centuries to boost the immunity, organic orange and lemon peel, and other first-rate, highly effective ingredients. Now, this will boost your body's own natural immunity. It helps support not only the healthy functioning of your immune system, but your general health and wellness. It assists in boosting your overall vitality, and it helps you reduce fatigue. I took my first dose this morning, and candidly, I feel better already. And now it's at a 25% discount, a new introductory rate. So I urge you to go to the INFOWARS store now, and if not Immune Wall, look at the other extraordinary specials we are running. You will always find that the INFOWARS products are the very best on the marketplace. You can go to Walmart, you can go to CVS, you can go to Walgreens, and you can find products that claim to be and claim to do what we say. But what you'll find is that Alex Jones will put nothing on the INFOWARS store site that isn't rigorously tested and proven to be the best of the genre. We're not using cheap fillers. We're not using second-rate ingredients. If you want the very best of the all-natural products, or if you're looking for First Amendment T-shirts or books or other terrific products that help us finance the fight for freedom, go to the INFOWARS store now. Do us a favor. Do yourself a favor. As Alex Jones likes to say, it's a 360-degree win. Owen, you're welcome to jump in on this conversation. We've still got Tyler Nixon on the line talking about the legal peril that Twitter is facing down the road.
Well, I'll just chime in real quick, and then let's get back to Tyler. You know, the lawsuit that yourself and Milo are involved in right now, Roger, I feel like just got a lot more gasoline, if you will. Really, it's kind of like nuclear powered now. And really, it's just beginning. I think that Project Veritas is going to release even more damning videos on Twitter in the future. But, you know, Tyler, I know you were getting into it in the last segment, but what kind of fuel does this add to this lawsuit? And can this be submitted as evidence?
Well, and you've nailed it. And, you know, I just, looking at the bigger picture, you can't help but feel, as I'm sure the founding fathers did when they fought tyranny, that there's a certain amount of providence at play here. And, you know, the bottom line is this, as I was saying at the end of the last segment, you think that behind the curtain that these folks have some level of systematic meticulousness, that, you know, when they're literally toying with people's lives and livelihoods, that there would be an actual process and an actual, you know, seriousness about it. But what we have found now, and thank you, James O'Keefe, who is, as I said, just really an incredibly talented and brave journalist, is that it's not any of that. It's basically amateurish, juvenile, ad hoc, arbitrary, every terrible thing that you can think of in terms of applying so-called standards. I mean, these aren't standards. This is completely arbitrary. And what it does is basically give us an insight into this, what Milo said, you know, and we know is a very secretive, covert process that they go through, that as he said, won't explain. Well, now we know why they won't explain it, because it's inexplicable, because it's completely arbitrary, because it's just made up based on whoever. If you watch the video, that one individual who was the guy who would ban accounts, just said, yeah, I'll just, you know, whatever I feel like doing, I'll decide based on my own politics. And if the person I send it to up the line agrees with that, then that's the case. They get banned. I mean, it's worse than incompetence, despicable, because they're defending it as though it has some sort of like, well, we've got, you know, these standards that we're applying for decency for whatever content, and it's worse than that. It's not even in standards at all. And I think this is just, I mean, James O'Keefe has given a huge, huge boost to everyone out there who has suffered at the hands of these Twitterozzies, as I'd like to call them. You know, the people who run around censoring in totally arbitrary terms, and they're very casual and just basically brazen about it. I mean, just the way they talked in those interviews, even though they thought they were talking to one-on-one people, still, just the way they approached it is just really, really something that the Twitter management, as well as their legal team, should really reconsider whether they want to push the envelope here and have these people deposed, because I guarantee you there's a lot worse than what we've seen. I mean, that's just a little snapshot. Who knows?
Well, and I can tell you, I can tell you already, I know that in the future, Twitter is going to be exposed by Project Veritas for going through private messages and actually hoarding nude pictures of people and perhaps using it as blackmail. That's what's going to drop next. But let me just say this, and I want to hear your comment on this, Roger, because you've already been completely banned off Twitter. I still have my Twitter account. About a month ago, I tried to organize with other conservatives that have huge followings on Twitter. Actually, it was going to happen. I don't remember when the day that the Twitter big ban was supposed to happen, or the Twitter purge, as it was called. But I was trying to organize conservatives on Twitter to have a group effort of a Twitter boycott where on the same day we would all leave Twitter for Gab. I could never get anyone behind that. Nobody wanted to do it, and I get it. You've got your followers on Twitter. But I'm done now. In fact, I've just decided, it's been weighing me. I'm done. I don't care about Twitter anymore. I don't care that I have the following built on Twitter. I'm boycotting Twitter because what are we doing? Why would we not be boycotting these people that want to make us disappear? Why would we provide these people with content that don't have the common respect for us to give us a fair platform and give us free speech? So you know what? I'm done. I'm done. By next week, you can follow me on Gab. I'm done with Twitter. You're not going through my private messages. You're not going through and censoring me and shadow banning me. So, you know what? If the other conservatives don't want to do it, fine. Stay on Twitter. Stay on the anti-free speech platform. I'm done. I'm done.
Well, let me speak to that, Owen, because I've not been talking about our impending lawsuit. That's because Tyler Nixon and I have been interviewing some of the meanest, most effective, most aggressive attorneys in the country today. We've been listening to various legal theories. We think they're vulnerable on a whole host of different issues. I can't wait till our lawyers take on their candy-ass white shoe lawyers who try to defend the indefensible. That's why I've moved over to Minds and Gab, where you can follow me, and I am very aggressively posting so people can keep up with my activities. But I refuse to leave the battlefield. I will bring Jack and the boys at Twitter to their knees, along with my good friend Milo and my most aggressive attorney, Tyler Nixon, and others. This fight has just begun. We will not be silenced. Not by Twitter, not by Facebook, not by Google, not by anyone on the tech left. We're coming for you, Jack. We're coming for you. And we will fight this out, not just in the courts, but on every front. You're in the right place, the War Room. We appreciate your joining us today. And we ask you again, go to the INFOWARS store to support the fight for freedom.